Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Produce Moms Podcast. My name is Lori Taylor, and I'm the host of the show. I love when we bring back a repeat guest, and you're going to have to scroll way back in the archives to find this woman. Kaci Komstadius is our guest today. She was originally on the podcast in episode 12. So here we are several episodes later, literally over 100 episodes later. Kaci, we're really glad you're here. You're coming to us from Washington State. You're with Sage Fruit Company. It's cherry season. I imagine that you're going crazy right now.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me back. We are in the thick of it right now.
Yeah, it's such a wild time for everyone in the Pacific Northwest. This time of year with this crop, it's a delicate crop. It's an extremely important crop for the growers. And it's really, Kaci, it's a little profound because it's one of our last standing, like truly seasonal items. I mean, there are certainly, there's the winter season cherries that come from the Southern Hemisphere, but really it's one of the last real seasonal foods.
Because even if they're coming from the Southern Hemisphere, it's still seasonal for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they held over. And the only reason why they're opposite is because it's, different hemispheres. So we have alternating seasons. And so it really is. It's a pretty fast-paced 8 to 10 weeks here in the Pacific Northwest. We're still selling apples as well.
Mm-hmm.
Pears, and then you get cherries in the mix and chaos just breaks loose.
I know I'm like kind of shocked that you had time for a podcast, but I'm so glad you're here. So for those of you that don't know, Kaci's one of my dearest friends, truly one of the very first friends I made in my produce industry career. And you know how we all have different friends for the different circles of our life. And she's my longest standing and one of my absolute dearest friends, and we came together through produce. So it's going to be a lot of fun at this conversation. And it's always great to welcome a friend to the show. And Kaci's just a wonderful person, genuinely wants to see the success of others, very, very much embodies the spirit of collaboration. And that's been a huge catalyst for the growth of what she's done at Sage Fruit. I mean, Kaci manages all of their external communications and a ton of their marketing efforts across the board. And she's just really helped elevate the brand recognition of Sage Fruit and has had a nice halo effect on the entire office. They realized it about last year at this time when Kaci was on her maternity leave, just how important Kaci was to that operation. But so new mom, dear friend, wonderful marketer, very, very loyal and passionate about the topics we're going to discuss today. So with that, Kaci, any other, any intro that you would like to provide? Tell us a little bit more about Sage Fruit and the specifics of your role today.
So Sage Fruit is a sales and marketing firm of Washington tree fruit. Our warehouses grow apples, pears, and cherries. We pick, pack, ship, sell globally, actually, not just nationally. We are found in national chains, but we do ship export. And, we've seen a lot of growth since I started here. I'll hit 12 years in October. Mm-hmm. Being at Sage Fruit, and we have grown just tremendously in that amount of time between our sales office, just the warehouse portion of it, the amount of fruit that we grow each year and sell. So I've been really excited to be a part of that and just see how we can become bigger and better here in the industry. I started out as a sales assistant when I first got my role, and it was right out of college. I had just come back from a summer job over in Rhode Island, and I got hired at Sage Fruit. They kind of took a chance on me, and I've been here ever since. So I've put my roots down. I've been here all my life, but I had plans, out of college, I'm going to move away, and I didn't. I'm back here. I cannot peel myself away from agriculture. I really do enjoy it. I love teaching people about it. I love discussing it. I love creating new recipes and sharing those with people. It's kind of cliche to say, but it's a total passion of mine.
No, and it's true. And I think that passion is what keeps so many of us tightly connected to this industry.
Yes, I would agree with that. And, I am pretty well versed in my apples and my pears and my cherries, but our region is very agricultural heavy. And so the summertime is my favorite time. We just have so much going on, and the roadside stands are probably my favorite places. It's one of my greatest joys in the summertime. When I was a kid, I used to go to my grandparents' house every week, and we would stop at the roadside stands, pick up fresh produce, and then we would go cook it with grandma. So that's really kind of why I've stuck with it. I love it. I do.
And what you just shared there, Kaci, is probably the thing that moves my soul the most with this industry. And that is that it's how food is culture. It is what is the nucleus of family bonds and traditions. And and it's exactly what you just said is what moves my soul in this industry, is the fact that our products provide those kind of lifelong memories and traditions to people all over the world. And it's in a time that can feel pretty divisive in the human race. Food is the grand, it's the grand connector, so it's good stuff. And I will echo Kaci's sentiments about the Yakima Valley farm stands. I have been with her, and no one loves them more than Kaci. So, but Kaci, another thing Kaci has really taught me, and she has taught me to be more mindful of, and has demonstrated to me how easy it is to take sustainable steps in your own household to be a more earth conscious, sustainability focused consumer. She's helping me get started with at-home composting and helping me understand environmental outputs in our supply chain. Kaci, let's talk about how that passion that is so authentic to who you are has been a catalyst for some really exciting innovation at Sage Fruit. Tell us more about it.
Yes. So, growing up, we recycle in our household. But it was the simple things like newspapers and aluminum cans and just, the easy stuff. And then my fiance's family sort of really increased that. They are very conscious of reducing, reusing, and recycling. And I found myself being way more conscious of it. Can I reuse this plastic container? Can I find some place to recycle the glass? And here in Yakima, we don't actually have a place for a lot of the recycling that goes on. So,
and you have more than most regions in the United States.
Yes.
I mean, let's make sure we call that out. Like far more resources than what we can find in cities here in the Midwest.
Yes. And so they actually really opened my eyes to how much we weren't doing. And that became sort of a passion project for me at home. And Rob actually was the one who decided that we really needed to get the at-home composter going on so that we could, reduce even just our weekly waste. And it was amazing how much we cut down when it was just the two of us before baby. We cut down the number of bags that we used in garbage to 1 per week, and which we still had to do more frequently because you can't really keep that in your house for a full week. But at the same time, it was only 1 full bag of garbage per week. And so that kind of translated into my job and just seeing the different amount of packaging that we have that we are putting fresh produce into. And how can we make that better? There's moms are going to go into the grocery store. I'm going to go into the grocery store and think about, I need something quick and easy. I need something that's convenient for my family. As much as we want to all be good stewards of the earth, we want to, we sometimes don't have
that grab and go model is sometimes what works.
So in keeping with that mindset, we need to figure out a different type of package that is going to allow that to still continue, but is not going to make a negative impact on the planet. So I'm very well aware, like I have every intention of going and buying all my bulk produce and cutting it up, putting it away, and then serving that to my child. And it's not always feasible. And I do understand that. And so when all of this new sustainable packaging started coming out, I started going through and trying to research what the best option would be, because then we hear about microplastics. Okay, so if I were to go with this route, is it going to create a microplastic that is also not good for the environment? And so there's all of these other little things that go into it, and making a switch. That's the hard part, right? Like we already have some packaging that's created. So we have to work our way through that, but let's come up with a way to be better and create better packaging for the consumer.
Yeah. Anytime you make a change as a farming brand, there's an insurmountable amount of risk, because you got to think, I want everyone on the listening with us today to think about, the growers commit to putting a certain amount of crops in the ground. That's a huge hard cost investment. Oftentimes they're planting based off projections. They're not necessarily planting to number, they're not manufacturing, like reverse engineering their supply chain. They have to plant based off projections due to the crop cycle. And then the next, so if you change your packaging, a lot of things can happen. First of all, the cost of your product can go up, because more often than not right now, and Kaci, I want you to obviously elaborate on this because you've evaluated way more than I have, but more often than not, these sustainable packaging solutions come with a higher price tag. And and so then that's a huge risk too for the farming brands. It's like, okay, we want to do the right thing, but the right thing, yes, is to be a good, we got to sell this food. We've got to make sure that our nation maintains food security, that the retailers will buy it. It's so complex. Like there's so many stakeholders that dictate whether a noble move like this sustainable packaging that Sage Fruit has just launched, there's so many stakeholders that will dictate whether or not it'll be a success. It's not just up to the farming, like the farming brand changing the packaging is a champion moment, but it's not necessarily the finish line of this journey.
And it's not. I think right now the sustainable options they definitely are at a higher cost, because they're not quite as easy to make as what we're used to. And sometimes that comes as a sticker shock when you're presenting it to let's say a buyer, right? Or to my team here, it becomes a sticker shock. And then you don't want to pass it on to the consumer, but sometimes it does. And that's what we have to take into effect too, is, I get a lot of feedback on our website and through our contact form about people wanting to have better packaging. And it would be really nice to think that they would be willing to pay that extra amount. And I think that they have every intention of that too, because they want to be better. Everybody wants to be better, right?
Yeah.
We just don't know what that cost is. And I think that as more sustainable packaging becomes available, the cost will go down. We just need to, as a group, really invest in that and be able to produce at the quantities that we're currently producing, because that's what ends up driving the cost down.
Well, and we need the POs from retailers. We need retailer participation. We need market access to tell the shoppers it's available, it's here, it's on shelf.
I agree. And I think that they all want to do better too, because one of the main reasons why I'm seeking this out. So yes, me personally, I wanted to be better, and I wanted our company to have a more sustainable packaging option, which is why I went out and I started looking at different packaging options. And I had Severand is actually the one that approached me with these new Biolabel Solutions bags, which you will find our organic cherries in this season. Nice. And they knew I was seeking a sustainable option. I've let people know this is what I'm looking for. And as a company, we want to be ahead of the curve, right? We want to be able to have these packaging solutions that we can offer to our retailers. Then you look at the consumer and they're telling us that they want more sustainable packaging options. And then the third kind of driver was when you look at a lot of the retail end goals or, future plans, they set a deadline by 2022 or 2025 or 2030, we want to be 100% renewable energy or 100% recyclable,
zero waste. It's exactly. Yeah. And so, no, you're absolutely right on that. Every major retailer has a corporate initiative in this silo.
And so when I'm looking at this, I think, okay, so they're telling us that this is what they want. So why not us go out and find those options for them, and let's meet or even beat their goal. Let's take it to them and say, here's what we have available, and make that switch sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, we all become winners because.
So what's the support been like with this year's cherry, the Biolabel packaged cherries?
It's been great. I think that it is, we're doing it for our organic cherries as a test run. So the Biolabel bags are 100% biodegradable. Mm-hmm. Technically they can't be considered biodegradable because they do not start breaking down until 2 years, and biodegradability is measured after 18 months.
Oh, okay.
So 2 years after their production, they begin to naturally break down.
Okay.
If I were to take the bag and I were to put it on my front porch in the natural elements and allow it to stay there, it would break down within 1 year.
Okay.
So then I asked.
So can you put the bag in your compost?
I don't know that I would put it in my compost, but I think I could. I think it would.
So it's really a good solution for the majority of Americans, which are people who aren't composting at home, but they want to do better.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that when you're doing your compost too, at home compost, even if you put them in that container, it may not break down as fast as what your normal composting would do.
Sure.
But you probably wouldn't want to put them in there anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if you send it to the landfill, it will break down at the landfill. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions I asked was, what does this break down to? Because we need to make sure that it doesn't go into a microplastic. We've all seen pictures of the turtle with, straws, right? Like that is a traumatizing image. And granted, that is not a microplastic, that is plastic, but we have animals that are consuming those microplastics. And so, and for us here, it's in the rivers and in the lakes. So it breaks down into 25% enriched soil and 75% biogas, which as I'm doing my research on this, the companies have told me that landfills are now collecting those biogases and selling them back to energy companies as a renewable energy source.
Wow. Talk about a closed loop. That's amazing. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so that right there is kind of a selling point for me,
for everyone. Yeah.
Going into a microplastic. We don't want to have those microplastics either.
Mm-hmm. So what were your goals? Like when you started this, what was your goal or your vision? Like, how is this packaging going to, what problem is this going to solve?
My goal was to I wanted to trial it, right? I want to see how it holds up. I want to see.
And this is your first year with it.
It is. It's our first season with it.
Okay. And so for everyone with us, like, you got to think produce we always say in the industry, like, we're just different. We are, in a very good way. We've got the ultimate health in our food. Not all food categories can say that. Second of all, when you think about our supply chain, our products and our products packaging has to hold up in cold, wet environments.
Or even warm environments.
Yeah, good point. Especially with the way cherries are merchandised. Very good point.
Just in general, I mean, when they're going to a lot
field
of times
packing, and yeah, absolutely.
With cherries, they're in and out of cold rooms, and they're like once they get on the truck. So we go from the orchard to the warehouse to a cold room to the packing line to a cold room to a truck to the retailer. And a distribution center, most likely. Then it goes out to the stores, and then going.
People purchase them and take them to the beach, the lake, the pool. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. So they do have to hold up. We wanted to make sure that they were consumer friendly. Mm-hmm. And then I think just kind of gauging the interest too, and the reception from consumers and retailers is going to be really important going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So how are you guys looking to continue to go down this path and, be one of the leaders in sustainable packaging innovation for our industry? I mean, and really beyond innovation, it's a sustainable packaging commitment. You know what I mean? Like, because the innovation is essentially there, but your participation is going to help advance that innovation, because to your point earlier, you need more people using these sustainable biopolymers and these sustainable packaging solutions in order for them to become more affordable and improve the engineering of them and the accessibility of them. So how are you going to continue advancing in this area at Sage Fruit?
I I have a few things up my sleeve at the moment that I'm looking into.
You're not going to share on the podcast, I can tell. No, that's good. I respect that. I mean, you got to think this is innovation, and we do have to move forward with sound innovation and noble practices for our business. Business being a force for good is extremely important, but you don't have to talk about it, Kaci. I'm not going to push you in that corner.
We're trialing it with some cherries, but I do sell 2 other commodities. So
that's great.
Yeah. I mean, there's always something, right? And there's options out there for not even just plastic, but just different options in packaging in general, that we have been approached about and are evaluating, and we'll continue to evaluate as we go forward.
So why don't we explain what the packaging even looks like, so people understand. We mentioned, you mentioned that consumers and they're a stakeholder you have to think about when you go through an innovation or a packaging, change like this. So what can consumers expect? What does the bag look like? What does it feel like? Does it affect the shelf life? Can it be refrigerated? Can it sit outside in the heat at the pool and not melt? Like, all those are questions that people might have.
So won't melt in the sun. It's perfectly fine going in the refrigerator. It looks just like our normal cherry bags. It looks just like it. It feels just like it. It's a little bit softer than that more firm pouch bag that we're used to seeing at the retail level. And I think the main difference in all of it is that it's still a clear bag, but it just looks maybe just a little cloudy. But it really, once you put cherries in there, you don't really even notice it at all. And so there's nothing different between this bag and buying a normal cherry bag at the retailer. It's still going to hold your fruit. The shelf life of your fruit is perfectly fine. It still has the holes in the bottom of it, so your fruit can breathe and it doesn't, go overly ripe.
There is a difference, though. but it's all on the positive side. Like the differences are what been talking about this whole show.
But when you're looking at it at the retail level, I mean, you're going to look at it, and I don't necessarily think that people are going to be like, oh, well, this bag looks different than this bag.
Right. There's no reason why a produce merchandiser would not be excited about this.
I wouldn't think so.
Right.
They're still going to get their same shelf life that they've gotten before out of that fruit.
And another selling point to market the item as well, saying this is definitely something where at point of sale, if retailers and merchandisers can start calling out things like sustainable packaging, that it would sway me. And data tells us I'm not the only type of person that would be swayed. There's, over 50% of shoppers, according to modern shopper data, have said they will switch if given the option to the more sustainable package.
And I will clarify that it is on our organic cherries for this season as well. It's not all cherries we're packing. It's just our organic ones as a trial.
Right.
And if it, depending on how it goes, I mean, we'll see what next year holds, but we are trialing it on the organic ones this season because we feel that the organic consumer too is probably a consumer that is something that they're looking for.
Yeah, definitely more judicious in this area for sure.
Yeah. And if you look at some of the data and what they're looking for and the type of lifestyle and, just the demographics, that would be a good trial run for us for this particular package.
Yes, agreed. Well, cherry season is here. You're going crazy. You've given me about 30 minutes of your time, which is almost somewhat miraculous during cherry season. But since we got you on the phone, since you're one of the best cooks I know, I gotta pick your brain here and have you share with our audience what's your favorite way to eat cherries or to prepare them in a recipe.
So my very favorite way to eat cherries are just cold and fresh. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite. I can sit here and probably eat about a pound and a half, no problem. But I think I like cherries as sort of like a topping to things. Mm-hmm. And I like them savory and with the sweet. So I think you and I actually worked on a recipe together, and it was cherries with bacon and basil, a little bit of a drizzle of balsamic, and then taking a soft goat cheese and then putting it on a baguette. Is one of my most favorite. And then another one was last year, you published a cherry sauce recipe for pork. And I think it was for pork, but I put them on pork, just pork chops that I had grilled. Oh my gosh. Huge hit in our household. I would absolutely make that again.
Yum.
Yes.
Serve with a delightful glass of Columbia Valley wine, correct?
Yes.
Washington's other renowned fruit. No, Kaci, all good stuff. You're the best. Thank you for being part of this show. Thanks for your commitment to your passions, because your passions are driving your employer forward. They're driving our industry forward. And there's nothing better than a strong, intelligent, passionate woman. So you go, girl. And with that, you get the final thoughts, the closing remarks. That tradition hasn't changed since episode 12. So you're back in the hot seat for the final goodbye and any closing remarks that you might have.
Oh, well, I just want to thank everybody for listening, tuning in today, and being supportive of all of us here at Sage Fruit. If you have any comments or questions, or you want to learn more about what our efforts are in the sustainable packaging, feel free to visit our website and click that contact us form, and it will come to me so we can actually have a chat.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.